After completing my 10th class exams in 1979, my father suggested that I go and help my father's uncle and learn astrology. Mathematics being my favorite subject, I learned the calculations. My grandfather taught me how to calculate the inclinations of each planet and how to calculate the Lagna and the meridian center MC. And he gave me some birth charts to draw. Thus, I learned how to draw the birth charts first and showed interest in predictions. So my grandfather told me some predictions, some of the tips that he usually uses for predictions. And after learning those tips, I documented some of them. I verified with my father. While my father and my grandfather have laid the foundation for me to get interested in astrology, for almost a decade or 2 decades, I didn't show any interest. Welcome to Shasikara's Astrological series. This is a unique topic. Recently, I heard that the famous South Indian hero Rajnikanth, who is famous in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, state of Tamil Nadu, he's planning to enter the political arena, and I came to know that he's going to announce his political party called RNMM or RNN, one of those two, somewhere on 30th of or 31st of December 2020 this year. That is, today is 3rd December, so around 25 to 26 days later he's going to announce that he's going to start a political party, and the party is going to start from January onwards, and his party is going to stand in the local Tamil Nadu state elections somewhere in July or of August of 2021. I was excited to hear the news, and I felt like, okay, let me look at his uh, birth chart and see what will be the outcome of this announcement. There was a similar, in the same way, one of the Tollywood actor, uh, Pavan Kalyan, who is the brother of Chiranjeevi, had announced a political party somewhere in the late to 2010 or 2013, something like that, and uh, that was just an announcement, and he couldn't make it. Even Chiranjeevi has announced a political party and finally ended up in merging with Congress. So after going through two the heroes from South India doing that recently, and this is the third person, so I felt that I go through his birth chart and look at the possibility, just do an astrological analysis. How would it be? And here, what I see here is that he's going to start somewhere in 2007. He's announced his entry into politics in on the 31st December 2017, and again on December 31st, 2020, he's going to announce his political party one more time. So let go and see how his birth chart will be as of 30 or 31st of December, and from there in the year 2021, how would it be? Using Astro Data Bank, I got the birth details for Rajnikanth, the South Indian hero Rajnikanth. He was born on 12th December 1950 around 9:45 p.m. in Bangalore, South India. So using that as the birth details and using Jehora software, I generated this birth chart. As I said earlier, the very first thing that I look is with the assumption that the time of birth is correct. I just try to look at, are there any planets that are in Rasi Sandhi. That's the first step to do it. And here there are three planets that are in Rasi Sandhi. Rahu is in Rasi Sandhi, so that I have so I don't make that much importance for Rahu, but still Rahu is in Rasi Sandhi. The other two planets that are in Rasi Sandhi are Mars and Venus. So these are the two important planets, either of the way you look at it. Like if you look Mars from Rashi Lagna, it is in the fourth of 6th house if we assume that it is in Capricorn, or in the 5th house if we assume it in Sagittarius. The same way, if you look Venus, it will be in the 5th house if we assume it to be in Sagittarius, or in the 4th house if we assume that to be in Scorpio. So these two planets, oh, by the by, I forgot. Venus is the 3rd house lord and the 11th house lord, and Mars is the 4th house lord and the 10th house and the 9th house lord, 12, 11, 10, 9th house lord. Venus is the third third and 10th house lord. Mars is the 4th and 9th house lord. So the two important planets, the 4th and 9th house lord Mars, the 3rd and 10th house lord Venus, they both are in Rasi Sandhi. So that indicates that the houses, bhavas of those houses are always in a dilemma. And now let's go and look at from Rashi Lagna, what are the important planets. Since this is we are talking about his entry into politics, which is I would assume it as a career change in career. Let's go and look at it. First of all, the Lagnadipati Sun. Sun indicates a leadership role or a commanding role in wherever the native is. And the Sun is in the 4th house. 4th house is Sukhasthanam. So whenever even in the commanding role, it is he does rule the, and if you look at it, his Sun is in the 4th house and having a direct aspect on the 10th house. So the commanding role will always mostly in the home life environment and in the career. Those are the two places where the native will have a upper hand and have a more ability to command people or to command his career. So that's very important. Now the question comes is, how safe is this commanding situation for this particular native, which I'm going to talk because when I come into the aspects part of it. Then comes the second house lord, second and 11th house lord. Mercury is in 5th house. That's a very good sign. 5th house sometimes deals with entertainment too. So with Venus in the 5th house, so there is a chance, and Venus being the 10th house lord, that might be a positive reason why he was able to command and come to a very high position in his career in the entertainment industry. And also to add to that, Venus, the 10th house lord Venus, is co-joined with the 12th and 11th house lord Mercury. 12th second house is Dhanasthanamo and the 11th house is financial gains or Labhasthanamo. So when the 10th house lord has co-joined with the second and 11th house lord, it clearly tells you that the natives gain financial gains and the wealth is completely through his career. And now since Venus is by default is considered to be a lover, more inclined toward arts and entertainment, and since the Venus is residing in the 5th house, which comes under sports and entertainment, film industry or movie or television, these type of things, so naturally it is proven that the native has been in a very commanding situation in his career, which is very closely related to arts and entertainment, and that's the only career for him where he has gained his wealth, accumulated his wealth, and where he had a lot of either it is a financial gains or financial losses, whatever it is, it's all in his from his career perspective only. Then the third one, the next is the 6th house lord. If you look at it, the 6th and the 7th house lord is Saturn. Saturn is in the 2nd house. So when Saturn is in the 2nd house, that is the house Kutumbasthanamo and Dhanasthanamo, and Saturn is also the sixth and seventh house lord. So sixth house talks about employment conditions, debts, and illnesses. Seventh house is, apart from Kalatharsanam, it also talks about businesses and short-term travels too. So for this particular NATO, what you can see here is the NATO's Lord, the Lord for the sixth and seventh house is in Saturn, which is in the second house. So the whole um, the employment conditions, whatever it is all those and somehow come up to the wealth part of it. Then comes the eighth house. Seventh house I already talked. Eighth house lord is Jupiter. Here, if you look at it, the eighth house lord Jupiter is residing in the seventh house. That is the biggest drawback for this particular NATO, is a eighth house lord residing in the seventh house, which we can talk later. And then all other houses are empty. That's the beauty of this chart is. And if you look at it, a lot of people have a negative opinion about something called as Kalasarpa Yoga or Dosha, and those who thinks that Kalasarpa Yoga is bad for them, and those who became a prey to some of these fake astrologers who say that, who announce or that by doing certain rituals the Kalasarpa Yoga will go away. That's all wrong. This Nitu has a Kalasarpa Yoga, which you can clearly see it here. If you, even if you assume Rahu, which is has a 0 degrees, if you assume Rahu in being in Rasi Sandhi is in Aquarius, then Ketu will be in the first house. That means Rahu is in the seventh house and Ketu in the first house. Then it will be 100% Kalasarpa Yoga. So either of the way you look at it, this particular Netu is have Kalasarpa Yoga, and that doesn't mean that it is bad for anyone. So I don't want to go out of the topic, but here I want to emphasize is that just because of having Kalasarpa Yoga is not a bad thing to have it. So now comes the question is, what is the Vimsottari Dasa starting December of 2020 and going all the way down the road? So if you look at the Mercury Mahadasa and Ketu Antardasa, the Ketu Antardasa started in 2020 June and goes till 2021 June. And then let's go and look at the Pratyantra Dasas. The Rahu Pratyantra Dasa started on November 10th, 2020 and goes all the way till 2nd January 2021. So that means the NATO is announcing about that he is going to start a political party during the Rahu Pratyantra Dasa. Okay, just give a day of plus or minus 2 days. So it's during the Rahu Pratyantra Dasa is going to announce, and then comes the Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa, which is for another approximately 18, 21, 2 months, 1.5, 2 months, I should say it as 1.5 month, is the Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa, and then the Saturn Pratyantra Dasa. So the most important thing after the announcement is made in the Rahu Pratyantra Dasa, the NATO will go through the Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa, Saturn Pratyantra Dasa, and again the Mercury Pratyantra Dasa. 3, of which 2 planets are very important. The Jupiter and Saturn Pratyantra Dasas are very, very important. The reason, now let me give the reason. In one of my presentation, I did mention that there is a 5 planet combination and a 6 planet combination. Panchagraha Kutami and Sashtagraha Kutami is going to happen in January and February of 2021. So by 15th of February 2021, the 2 planet combination and 1 planet 2 5 planet combination and 1 6 planet combination will be completed by 15th of February. That's exactly when the native will complete his Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa. So whatever happens, whatever the impact of that 2 5 planet combinations and 1 6 planet combination on this particular native is going to happen during the Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa, and the outcome you will see either a little bit of that outcome you will see during the Saturn Pratyantra Dasa, which is in February, March and April too. And then the reason, so the most important thing here to notice is the Jupiter Pratyantra Dasa and Saturn Pratyantra Dasas are very important here for this particular native. And then Even the Rahu Pratitara Dasa is a little bit important because natal Saturn's direct aspect is on natal Rahu, and if you look at it, transit Rahu is currently in Taurus, which is the 10th house from Rashi Lagna and owned by Venus. Okay, and then the next thing that you have to see is this 10th house natal transit Rahu residing in the 10th house is having a direct aspect on the Lagnadipati Sun. So the Rahu Pratyantara Dasa is going to have an impact on the Lagnadipati Sun, and his and Sun being the not just the Lagnadipati, the character being the leader. There will be some sort of an unexpected event to happen between November 10th through 2021 January 2nd, and because of transit Rahu looking at the natal Sun. And then, with the assumption that whatever event has happened had no impact and the NATO announces on 30 or 31st of December, the Jupiter Pratyataradasa will take the take it from there, and whatever the transit Jupiter is and natal Jupiter's whatever the impact that they are going to show, the NATO will be it will be shown in the NATO's life. So let's go and do a little bit detailed analysis on those two Pratyantara Dasas. If you look at the birth chart of this particular NATO and then look at the transit planets, the very first thing that I noticed is starting January 2017, then transit Saturn entered Sagittarius. That means the NATO Sade Shani started somewhere in January of 2017, and this since 2017 for 7.8 years, 7.5 to 8 years, the NATO will be undergoing the Sade Shani period. So the very first thing is since 2017 he is in Sade Shani. So I just did a little bit, googled it here and there, and found out that just a few days here and there of the Sade Shani period, the NATO had some sort of a health related issues, health concerns. If you see it here, he had some sort of a kidney transplant in 2000 May 2016, just 5 months before the 6 months before the Sade Shani period began, and that's clearly visible is because at that time in May 2016 transit Saturn was in Scorpio, co-joined with its bitter enemy Sun, and Sun is the Lagnadipati, and Saturn is the 6th and 7th house lord. 6th house is Rogasthanama and 7th house is Marakasthanama. So for sure it has clearly shown that the NATO had gone through some sort of a health related issues with life threatening situations, and that's clearly visible over there. And now with the start of Sade Shani in 2017, and that too the transit Saturn has co-joined with natal Venus and natal Mercury, and having a direct aspect on the 11th house, which is the Labasthanamo. It's not at least I have no idea what the impact was, but there should be some sort of an impact on the NATO when it comes to the second house, which is the Dhanasthanamo and Kutumbasthanamo, and the 11th house, which is the Labasthanamo, and the 10th house, because Venus owns the 10th house, which is the career. And now starting January 2020, transit Saturn entered Capricorn, and that's when his second phase of Sade Shani has started. With the start of the second phase in January 2020, overall we had the so-called COVID-19, and it has its own impact on this particular NATO's health also. And if you look at it, Moon, which is the 7th house lord from Chandra Lagna, means assuming Capricorn as the first house, that's where Moon is residing. If you assume that as the first house, then the Moon is the 7th house lord. Anytime you look from Chandra Lagna, wherever the Moon is, then you got to figure it out what is the house that Moon owns. Here for this particular NATO, it is the 7th house. So Moon is the Marakasthanadipati now, because it owns the 7th house. It is residing in the first residing in there in Capricorn. It co-joined with transit Saturn, the Lagnadipati, a malefic planet. So the Lagnadipati and the 7th is transit Saturn is co-joined with the 7th house lord Moon, and they both are having a direct aspect on the 7th house since January 2020. To add further, Mars, The fourth house lord is Mars, and the 11th house lord is also Mars from Chandra Lagna. And Mars has co-joined with transit Saturn and the 7th house lord Moon since January 2020. And what the impact is, at least I have no idea what is how the things are going in this particular native's lifetime. So I cannot say what could be the impact, but something that is related to his fourth house is Sukhasthanamo or home life environment, 11th house is Labhasthanamo, and then for Moon it is the seventh house, which is the Marakasthanamo. So, and being first house lord is Saturn too. So this many things are happening here, and then somewhere for few days transit Jupiter was in Capricorn and went back to Sagittarius, and on 29th November 2020 transit Jupiter has re-entered Capricorn and co-joined with transit Saturn. That means the since December 1st 2020 transit Saturn and transit Jupiter are in Capricorn for this particular native, co-joined with Moon, who is the seventh house lord, and all the three planets are directly looking at the seventh house. Seventh house is Marakasthanam, but at the same time, seventh also talks about business deals and short-term travels. So this is something that we have to keep in mind for this particular native, because the native is going through Elnati Shani or Sade Shani right now, and the Mahadasa is, if you look at it, the Mahadasa is Mercury, which from Chandra Lagna is the sixth house lord. Mercury is the sixth and the sixth and the ninth house lord is Mercury from Chandra Lagna, but at the same time it is residing in the 12th house from Chandra Lagna. That's the Mercury Mahadasa. And Ketu, it doesn't matter what Ketu is, but if you look at that's Antardasa, so forget about Ketu. So the Pratyantara Dasas are Jupiter and Saturn. Remember, I told you the Pratyantara Dasas of Rahu until 2nd January, and then the Jupiter, then the Saturn. These three Pratyantara Dasas are very important, of which the Pratyantara Dasa of Jupiter and Saturn is very important. This is the reason why I mentioned earlier that this particular native's Pratyantara Dasas is the one that is going to tell what that's going to make the natives, that's going to decide what the future of this particular native will be. So here comes the final conclusion for this particular uh, analysis. Like I said earlier, the native is going through the Sade Shani, the second part of Sade Shani, and if you look at it, the Pratitardasas, Jupiter and Saturn are very important for the next 3 months. That means from January, February, and March of 2021 is very important, because Jupiter and Saturn's Pratyantara dasas are going, and also at the same time the 1 6 planet and 2 5 planet combinations are going to happen in Capricorn. Capricorn is the first house from Chandra Lagna, and that's where the seventh house Lord Moon is residing. That's where Mars, the most violent planet Mars, is residing, and during that six planet combination, I think, or five planet combination, Venus will be one of them. Venus is the 10th house law from for this particular native, so something pertaining to his career would be a little bit uh, unexpected. um, Changes will happen pertaining to his career during that January and February of 2021. Not much is going to happen in March, but in April, when transit Jupiter leaves transit Saturn and goes to Aquarius, which is the second house from from Chandra Lagna, and transit Jupiter is going to co-join with natal Jupiter there in the second house. Remember, the native is still going through the Sade Shani, and Jupiter is the 12th house lord from Chandra Lagna. 12th house deals with hospitalization, unexpected expenditures, and the second house is the Marakasthanamu, and at the same time second house also deals with Kutumbasthanamu and Dhanasthanamu. So when transit Jupiter moves to Aquarius and co-joins with natal Jupiter from April of 2021 till September of 2021, that is the time period where the native's future turns. We have, and it is very complicated to tell at this point which way it goes, but as far as I see here, the chances for this particular NATO to survive in the political arena is close to zero. This is just my opinion.
Disclaimer. Last updated, May 29, 2020. Interpretation and definitions. Interpretation. The words of which the initial letter is capitalized have meanings defined under the following conditions. The following definitions shall have the same meaning regardless of whether they appear in singular or in plural. Definitions. For the purposes of this disclaimer, company, referred to as either the company, we, us or our in this cookies policy, refers to Astrological astrological series. You means the individual accessing the service, or the company, or other legal entity on behalf of which such individual is accessing or using the service, as applicable. Application means the software program provided by the company downloaded by you on any electronic device named Astrological astrological series. Service refers to the application. Disclaimer. The information contained on the service is for general information purposes only. The company assumes no responsibility for errors or omissions in the contents of the service. In no event shall the company be liable for any special, direct, indirect, consequential, or incidental damages or any damages whatsoever, whether in an action of contract, negligence or other tort, arising out of or in connection with the use of the service or the contents of the service. The company reserves the right to make additions, deletions, or modifications to the contents on the service at any time without prior notice. This disclaimer has been created with the help of the disclaimer generator. The company does not warrant that the service is free of viruses or other harmful components. External links disclaimer. The service may contain links to external websites that are not provided or maintained by or in any way affiliated with the company. Please note that the company does not guarantee the accuracy, relevance, timeliness, or completeness of any information on these external websites. Errors and omissions disclaimer. The information given by the service is for general guidance on matters of interest only. Even if the company takes every precaution to ensure the content of the service is both current and accurate, errors can occur. Plus, given the changing nature of laws, rules and regulations, there may be delays, omissions or inaccuracies in the information contained on the service. The company is not responsible for any errors or omissions, or for the results obtained from the use of this information. Fair use disclaimer. The company may use copyrighted material which has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. The company is making such material available for criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. The company believes this constitutes a fair use of any such copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of the United States Copyright Law. If you wish to use copyrighted material from the service for your own purposes that go beyond fair use, you must obtain permission from the copyright owner. Views expressed disclaimer. The service may contain views and opinions which are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other author, agency, organization, employer or company, including the company. Comments published by users are their sole responsibility and the users will take full responsibility, liability and blame for any libel or litigation that results from something written in or as a direct result of something written in a comment. The company is not liable for any comment published by users and reserve the right to delete any comment for any reason whatsoever. No responsibility disclaimer. The information on the service is provided with the understanding that the company is not herein engaged in rendering legal, accounting, tax, or other professional advice and services. As such, it should not be used as a substitute for consultation with professional accounting, tax, legal or other competent advisors. In no event shall the company or its suppliers be liable for any special, incidental, indirect, or consequential damages whatsoever arising out of or in connection with your access or use or inability to access or use the service. Use at your own risk. Disclaimer. All information in the service is provided as is, with no guarantee of completeness, accuracy, timeliness or of the results obtained from the use of this information, and without warranty of any kind, express or implied, including, but not limited to warranties of performance, merchantability and fitness for a particular purpose. The company will not be liable to you or anyone else for any decision made or action taken in reliance on the information given by the service or for any consequential, special or similar damages, even if advised of the possibility of such damages. Contact us. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, you can contact us by email, jukra@gmail.com.